start off with apologies, so absolutely we've got
Ian Flint and Rich Felton.
Disclosure of interest, anyone, any agenda? No. If everyone's happy, we're going to jump ahead to item 5. We've got Colin Hall from the Environmental Agency for Flood Resilience and Engagement. So we're in the front of it. Respect title.
It is, yeah.
I just copied off your emails. So
Well, I'll try and manage expectations about that, but I'm quite impressed you've got a gavel, right?
Oh, it's been-
Are you okay me videoing this?
Sorry?
I'm videoing the meeting. Are you okay me videoing this?
Yeah, that's fine. So as long as you keep from the sides, because I'm not the best from the back.
No,
Getting a
it's
bit
got
thin
me
on the
from,
back.
got me from the side.
So yes, as I said, so my name's Colin Hall, and I work for the Environment Agency and our Flood Resilience team. This is my colleague Olwen. Olwen's just started with ourselves in our team, so he's shadowing, so be general. But yeah, basically what I wanted to speak to yourselves about today is obviously everybody's aware of sort of what's happened over the last sort of couple of months with Storm Babbitt, Kieran, and then sort of the heavy rainfall that we had in between, and then there was impacts across Northumberland. We were luckier than some areas, but that's because the weather decided to do a bit of a sort of a U-turn and go other places. At first we were expecting a lot more impacts than we sort of actually did. But off the back of that, and the flooding, unfortunately, that your villages suffered, sort of some of the properties within, I wanted to speak to yourselves today about trying to improve the resilience to future impacts that you have by sort of trying to create a community flood plan, such as, like Debbie McGee here, this is for another community, yeah, a community flood plan, and what it is in essence is a contingency plan that you as a community can have. Basically we have volunteers that enact the plan. Don't everyone gasp in horror, oh, we've got loads and loads to do at the moment, sort of, it's not a hugely intrusive role. Basically it's there for people sort of to just sort of be there sort of if needed when sort of flood events happen. And right on cue, tonight we just issued flood alert for the lower Coquet because the river levels have started to rise again. We're not anticipating, I should say this, we're not anticipating sort of any impact from this. We will, we're looking at issuing a flood alert which is going to sort of impact low-lying lands, but we're not expecting any flood warnings which could sort of mean property flooding or anything like that. It's just, I think it's a mixture of heavy rainfall and some of that. So that's what's happened. But if it was to sort of progress and hopefully if we've had any issues, this would be where sort of a plan would sort of come into action. What the plan allows us to do is it allows us to have effective lines of communication, ourselves being the Environment Agency and emergency responders, the fire service. We're category 1 responders to flood events. So yeah, we effective lines of communication. We can offer earlier warning to sort of your community through this in the guise of what's called a flood advisory message, which then you could then pass to sort of vulnerable locations. So it's not war and peace. It's not designed to be. It's flooding is possible. What flooding is happening now, and then post flood, and then it has a series of actions. And what we do is we make it bespoke to each community. I cover the whole of Northumberland, but we have sort of groups covering the whole of the northeast, and it really is sort of hugely beneficial. What it means is basically sort of, I imagine people were sort of at the time as well, sort of during Storm Babbitt, where people were having impacts, people were going to see where they could help and sort of who they could sort of support. If you've got a plan in place, you don't have to figure out where you can help, where you can support with all details. So they sort of, you take away those sort of after those first few hours of uncertainty of where people can make people have got an actual role and they know how to support the vulnerable, the people in vulnerable locations know sort of where the support can come from and where they can sort of gather it from. And it's as much or as little as you want to put into it. Some communities like Rothbury, for instance, they've fundraised before and they have sort of what we call property level resilience measures. So they have sandbags and things stored themselves, so they don't have to rely completely on the county council, who as a rule don't issue sandbags. So you can have, they do on occasion, but as a rule they don't, so you can't completely rely on it. So Rothbury, for instance, have these, they have other sort of, they have a small pump and things like that. Or you can be like Wooler, where they sort of, they don't have equipment and things like that, and what they do is they get together basically if the event happens and they go and support in different ways. So it's completely up to yourselves as a community. It's completely free. I will lead on it. What I'll do is sort of, if you're happy as a parish council, sort of basically the leaders of the community to go ahead with it, I can draft a plan, make it bespoke to your community by sitting down with you and identifying vulnerable locations, although I think I know them, now having sort of unfortunately been out and spoken to sort of all the people who've been impacted individually. But you know your community better than I do. You can sort of you let me know sort of all the sort of the little sort of quirks and things like that. And if this sort of brick floods, then that sort of probably over there is going to be impacted. So you can let me know all these sorts of things. And what we can do is we can just go right down to sort of the finest details, sort of who, all the sort of the people sort of you get all the numbers and things like that, who to call basically in an emergency and things like that. You get a direct line through to the incident room or the for the Environment Agency. So if we open the incident room sort of in an event, which we have done sort of more than we'd like to sort of over the last few months, you get a direct line through to call them. The reason we don't offer that direct line through to every single member of the public is, as you can imagine, it gets fairly busy and we need to keep it sort of as clear as we possibly can. And it's for flood groups to offer information and sort of gather information themselves. There's all the sort of the 24-hour hotline numbers and things for Northumbrian Water, if there's any sewage leaks or anything like that, any sort of pumping stations that go, you have the numbers through to fire control, all these sorts of things. And it's all listed there, and it all helps, as well as all the links through to sort of checking the river levels and things like that as well. I will put all of them in. And it goes down to mental health support and things as well, sort of the post-flood, because unfortunately sort of it's not a nice situation, sort of, and we do have people who have sort of PTSD and things like that sort of from it. So that's basically what I've offered yourselves. Individually, I have been out and spoken to all the properties that sort of have been impacted, and I've given them sort of personal flood plans. I've offered them advice and guidance on their own property level resilience, as well as insurance and things like that. We've looked at the levels and things to improve our forecasting and things like that. So what I would like to do is have them individually sort of more resilient, but have a key community more resilient as well, which is then going to support them even further, because you're going to get that sort of earlier messaging. But I was saying about the earlier messaging, do people know about the flood warning service? Do you know how that operates, the flood alerts, flood warnings? So we have a free service. Sorry, I didn't realise if you had this, I could have sort of put together a little bit of a presentation. It's absolutely fine. So we have a free flood warning service, which is a 3-tier system you have, which starts with a flood alert, which unfortunately we've just issued. It's based on a hydrometric network telemetry that we have on the water course. If certain thresholds are met, as it's coming through, basically we'll issue what's called a flood alert when it goes to a certain threshold. You see that low-lying land, parkland, sort of footpaths and things can be sort of impacted. If it carries on sort of through that threshold, then we'll issue what's called a flood warning, which is when we believe there's going to be property impacts. The whole point of it is we can give at least a 2-hour lead up time to sort of those the people who register in order to put measures in place, property level resilience, so things like flood walls, floodgates, sandbags, all these sorts of things. The next level of carries on spiking is severe flood warning, which unfortunately we've issued at Aberdeenshire and Lincoln in areas. The last time we issued it in Northumberland was in Corbridge in 2015, and that's when it's a risk to life, and people are sort of being moved out of Sri Lanka, people being moved out of boats and things like that, and unfortunately, like in Aberdeenshire, not returning to boats, things like That's every member of the public who sits within those flood-risk areas can register for that. But when I was saying about the earlier warnings, we issue to partners like the local authority in Northern Water what's called a flood advisory message, which is when we find out about heavy potential bands of rain that could come across, adverse weather that could impact. And the way we look at the flood routes is the same way we look at the partner agencies. We sort of issue those same sort of alerts, those advisory messages to yourselves and let you know. Again, the reason we don't send it out to every sort of member of the public is because if you choose to go ahead with this, what we'll do is we'll offer some training as well. So then you'll understand to act accordingly. So if we issue that message and we've got Mrs. Smith who lives in number 63 sort of then sort of getting motivated and things that I'd always say is we could have a band of rain that's going to come across and potentially cause some impact. It's usually panic. But if you train yourselves and everybody understands, then you receive that message and you act accordingly. You realise it's this message to have a look. The other advantages are if you've got farmers with livestock, things like that, or if it's in the summer, it's running wet summer months as well now, you could, if people are camping and things like that, you can give that early warning so you're getting more than that 2 hours. And it may turn out to be sort of not needed, but you'd rather be shutting the gate after, rather than the issue and shutting the gate after the horse. So in a nutshell, that's what I'm offering. It's all completely free. You can sort of have as much or as little as you want.
Would it be worth, say that we're on either side of the river, joining together with Felton Parish Council and doing this as a joint Parish Council?
Yeah, that would be
and then
good.
we've got both sides of the river.
Again, sort of, so Bellingham West Woodburn, they act in a similar sort of way because they have the Bellingham West Woodburn road, which can cause issues and things, and Rothbury, Throtton, they were working the same sort of way. So yes, as I said, it's completely up to yourselves, and I can sort of just follow your lead. I'll put the structure together, and then we'll make it bespoke to your community. And so if we wanted to, if it's worthwhile, then we'll be speaking to the person. And if somebody wanted to represent as well with me, then we can go and speak, and then we can tie the groups together. Putting the plan together is the easy part. The hard part is getting volunteers. As I said, it's not a hugely intrusive role. I'm sure many of yourselves and other people sort of who aren't here who are actually out and about on the ground trying to support people in Stable College and the mill and things like that, and there's probably at the time.
I think we'd have quite a good turnout. We had a lot of people for coding, we had a lot of people volunteering with snow and things. So that's true.
We've got quite a good community.
I think, and that's, you know, you were talking about earlier, you mentioned about that, removing that sort of like first few hours of inactivity when you don't really know what to do. I think that's really what certainly the reaction, people are like, I want to help, how can I help? And so therefore, if they know that they're signed up to something where they're going to get told, you know, you get a text message saying, we need you to come out, kind of thing, it means that they can sit there and feel like
a sandbag.
Yes, exactly.
We are lucky in a sense with Felton Thurston because we have it's a relatively small proportion of residences that are going to be affected by flooding in comparison to the actual demographic of the village simply because of our topography and things. So I think it would be that we would have a good balance of team of people that would want to help and those that would like to need assistance.
You're completely right. And it can, I mean, you've got to remember, unfortunately, like Holland was doing here, but sort of, you've got to also remember surface water. Was it yourself, Claire, who mentioned it Thunder Thursday in 2012 in Newcastle? So that was a huge surface water event. So this looks at all aspects of flooding. So you can sort of look at that. People say, I'm at the top of a hill, I've seen people at the top of a hill flood. So unfortunately, this would cover everything. So it's contingency plans with plan for us. Yes, so everyone's very polite about it.
So what sort of things would you have to do? What actually physically do you need to do? Sandbag people's doors and things?
So we're not looking for, sorry, I'm ex-forces, so we're not looking for duty heroes, right? We don't want people wading in the wayside flood water and things like that. What we're after is isolators on the ground and effective lines of communication, and that's between the emergency services, partner agencies, as well as the residents within the village. So basically, you're going to have accurate information that you can pass on at an earlier stage that you can pass on to these residents, and then you're going to have it throughout the event. you can be sort of from preparedness, putting sandbags out and things like that. If people are happy to do so, you've got to remember you've been a volunteer, so it's as much of as little as you want to do, but we don't want anyone putting themselves in harm's way. There's a lady in Rothbury who's in her 80s, and she makes cups of tea for the other wardens. Written runs on cups of tea. So that is so if you're out and about walking and sort of speaking to residents and sort of helping potentially with evacuations and things like that, then having a cup of tea somewhere to get warm is is vital. But again, it's as much or as little as you want to do. We can offer training, Aiken, for instance, by Hexham, I can't give them enough training, they absolutely love it. So we've got them at Druridge Bay, helping with pumps and things and all sorts. So it's as much or as little as you want to do. We get into the fire service, and the fire service put on demonstrations and things, and how we all work together, and then who they would approach from the fire service if needed and things like that. So I don't want to terrify the life out of people though and say you must do this, you must do that. It's up to yourself, you're a volunteer. If you feel that filling sandbags and then putting them around vulnerable areas in the village is something you'd be happy to do, absolutely great, 100%. The only thing I would cut off from it is we don't want people wading into flood water and putting themselves in harm's way and then having to be rescued. Because unfortunately we have that. You get a snazzy high-vis vest as well, with blood warden on the back, so you get that M for authority.
Hands up now then.
Everybody loves a high-vis. But yeah, I mean, this is just introducing the possibility of having that, but we can all sit down, I'll put the plan together and we can go through it if people are happy to volunteer. What I wanted to do tonight is just put it out there and then get you speaking about it. And,
do you have risk maps, like overlaid maps, topical maps?
So yes,
It's probably good to get up and never seen one in this area.
I never ever know what the coverage is going to be like. So what I've done is I've emailed.
Do you know if the demos are
I don't think it has. It is.
well, I can imagine it not pouring through the door, but like...
I think you're probably more close to the surface level than what because what I
So
know
it's
is
coming down the main
plants.
street and then into yours.
The road gullies in Main Street is shocking.
Yeah, they are.
It's all clogged with leaves and everything.
The gullies everywhere in North London.
Well, they used to send gully stuff out and they just don't.
There's 4 gully suckers for the entirety of North London. That's the problem. I work very closely with highways, and it's very difficult. I was speaking to various MPs not long ago about the issue because because we have to with climate change and things, we're getting heavier downpours over shorter periods. We have to, myself, I have to go out to communities and speak about surface water impacts and things like that. And it's very difficult if the actual existing drainage is going to struggle to cope, basically, to then talk about what other preventative measures and things like that. So you're right. If you want, I'll make a note of it, and then it's not strictly by the rules, but I'll give highways a kick and see how people have been making the
noticeably, like,
I mean, I think
the
probably-
right at the top of the village particularly as well, and then all the way down, every gully was just clogged.
Is it-
flooding?
Is it leaf litter or is it are they actually
Clogged up man leaves.
Yes,
The one next to me is
someone
still
else.
just right up.
Yeah.
It's just
But I think part of the problem is though, in the past when they've come without giving us any notice, and then they go, oh, well, we couldn't do half because the car's there.
Yeah. Whereas
So,
if we know,
we kind of
we
need
can
to
be
know
supporting the
a
locations.
date,
at
and I
least.
know the trouble is they just do one job after another, don't they? And they can kind of give you a window, but you can't say to people you can't park your car for like 3 days.
This is the thing, isn't it, unfortunately, and they are hugely stretched because of that. When you were saying about risk maps, so this is our risk maps here. So you've got, I just took a snapshot of it, but low close and things there. The pet, so you've got the back burn, which caused issues as well, so because we couldn't discharge into the corporate at the time, and then you've got the properties at Eastmill, that's me, Corporate, sorry, I was there living it. and they're having some issues as well. They're fairly resilient with the community, to tell you the truth, but I think you have to be sort of when you sort of rush and walk across. I was saying as well about selective flood warning areas, the hatched areas.
Oh, so it's quite a bit on their side.
Yeah, there's a bit on sort of every side. But what I can do is, when we sort of meet again, if you're happy to do and drive this forward, then we can sort of, I can put them on, we can have a bit of a PowerPoint with the different areas and things on what right in terms of risks. So you understand risk ratios and things as well, and I'll deliver a PowerPoint on the flood warning service as well so people understand.
So have you emailed Thurston? Have you heard from him?
I haven't spoken to person yet, but if you've got the details, that would be great.
I'll drop this an email, copy you in.
Brilliant. Do you think at this moment in time it's worth me sort of drafting a plan for both?
Yes.
And then sort of prior to the meeting? Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it wouldn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense to have it half and half.
Might as
Both
well
sides
say
both
And
sides
we need to be
united.
communicating with each other because the biggest thing is, we share a bridge and,
Two bridges.
And the river's the boundary as well, it's not like it kind of goes through different parts of the
it's
parish.
difficult to move villages.
No, that's great. That's be thinking like that. Thing that you like to. We get some communities where there's one, no, not that fine. We go back there. I believe you all.
They might say that about us.
Well, you all seem lovely.
Colin, this building is registered with the County Council's emergency provision as well.
Brilliant.
So,
The village hall is, yeah.
the village hall is, so it could be, if people needed somewhere dry, warm.
The plan
We've
goes.
also got the provision of a generator to come in
Brilliant.
if, power goes off
So,
in the
like
area,
solar,
so we can provide quite good accommodation for people to get warm drinks, things like that.
That's absolutely great. I've got the plan comes with basically some civil contingency unit, so they will be the people who open it as a rest centre. So if you had people unfortunately overnight, they would open it because then it would sort of their insurance would cover
I was
everything.
going to say we have to lodge it with our insurance if there were people overnight, but
If it was overnight, they'd cover everything, so if there's any damage or anything, they'd also provide all sorts of events and everything like that. They've got it all sort of already set. Fortunately, we didn't need it during this sort of the impact. I mean, it wasn't a huge event, this one. The corporate area sort of, had 180, so the corporate had basically 183% of October's rainfall in 48 hours. So we think that's 2 months worth of rain in 48 hours. It was the wettest, it was the wettest October since 1871. So we were lucky in the northeast, to tell you the truth, and that was because we hadn't had previous sort of big events sort of in the last few years, and so our water levels were already quite low, and it wasn't the catchment wasn't saturated. This was the third highest event on the corporate since 2008, 2010. If we had that ground saturation, I think we would have potentially sort of a lot more impact.
On that little map, so
I can send you these across if you want, that's no problem.
the pink area, so because we were just saying it does further,
Just
further downstream.
downstream from the bridge does still flood.
But is it?
I don't know if it was up to property level or not. It does.
Is that what it is? Is it where the properties are?
It's where the properties are, because unfortunately we sort of here to protect properties.
I was just wondering what it was.
Yeah, so that's why, it's sort of, because the water has to go somewhere, and so basically we have to fields and things like that, so we would allow it to run.
I think we have a high risk though on the other side of the river. We've got a public footpath which literally the whole two villages and the dogs walk down pretty much on a daily basis. And I have walked down it before, and then it's been heartbroken when it's on the way back. And it rises that quickly over that path, and it is a risk.
So you'd have that forewarning, so then if you've got social media, you have a Facebook page, you sort of, I don't know what your best, you have like a Mob Matters or a sort of, I mean, for instance, you use a restaurant site, you can then put messages out via that. WhatsApp's always a good one and things like that. It's however you, as a village, sort of communicate most effectively, but we can sort of put all that together.
Well, it's been replaced twice in the floods that we've had. It's been washed away and the paths moved up each time, and now the fence is about this tall with all the grass moving through in places where it was, you know, a good 4 feet at one point. But the sand just gets to come soon.
Is rock really the first sort of levels monitoring that you've got upstream from us?
But Rockwood would be the closest.
Closest, yeah.
Yeah, biggest
And
out.
then work south,
Warkworth
or is
would
it
be-
work right south, yeah?
Yeah, well,
Is there anything being done with the River Authority to try and combat flooding? I know it's not politically correct to flood rivers these days, but stuff like the prospect of removing weirs and things to move water quicker.
so we are, there is a team looking at weir removal and things, but we could understand we have to then model the water course as well, so we can't just take the weir, we have to model it because we can't increase flood risk or anything like that. We, dredging isn't a big no-no, it's basically, it's when and where, and it's looking at whether it's obviously looking at biodiversity and things like that, because we don't own the world, but also looking at whether it's economically viable as well, because actually if you sort of dredge a water course, you get a heavy flow and everything just turns again, so then you have to have that continuous sort of dredging. So we look at other types of flood risk management now. So in Rockbury, for instance, we've got the floodgates, we've got embankments and things like that there. In Morpeth, we have the dam, and the Mitford Dam sort of there. So yeah, we are always looking at sort of ways that we can put natural flood management as well on a lot of water courses, where we look at stemming the flow through a series of leaky dams and things like that. Where instead of coming down in the southern onrush, it's water's held back and then it can saturate into the land and it's coming through a village. So we look at them sort of working with landowners and things and higher up captions. So we're looking at that all the time. Yeah.
Because they used to be the outside there,
It used to,
and then the main flow of the river used to be the other side of the island, whereas it's now this,
yeah.
now the Felton side of it as well.
Yeah, we've
Just
got,
from the levels are just built so up on that side now.
what we are looking at, so we've just been commissioned, so in the next financial year we are going to be remodelling the corporate, so we'll have a better understanding again of sort of what's that, because obviously the modelling is only as good as sort of the last been done.
So it might change different.
So then we would look,
areas to lower it in some that you might flood a field instead of.
yeah, and then we also looked at sort of there may be other areas at risk. So just because somewhere hasn't flooded sort of during Babbitt or Parish, doesn't mean that sort of that place isn't at risk, but the modelling might show that, and then sort of we might be able to put a scheme in there or something, and improve water areas.
Yeah, we've got a lot of interest in tree planting locally and things, and I think if you were doing something like that, it would be good to have some correspondence on where you'd like us to encourage us to plant trees, make sure that that's being done in the right way.
This is it because, unfortunately, it's, you don't want to create risk anywhere else. So again, with dredging and things, if you're going to increase the velocity, that's going to be the water course, but the water's going to come down, so you could be increasing risk in the area. So we have to model it catchment-wise. We can't just sort of focus on one area. I mean, there was a rumour, I don't know what you heard, sort of during Babbitt, that there'd been a release further up upstream, sort of during Babbitt, and that's what caused the flooding here. That we don't have anything to release further upstream. So we don't have a dam like Mitford, we don't have a reservoir like Keeler or anything like that. So it certainly wasn't the case. It was just the sheer volumes of water that were actually coming in off the hills. So yeah. The rumour is weird.
Does weir removal make it better or worse?
It depends.
Right.
It can depend. There's some sort of the studies that we've done in sort of certain areas in Otterburn, for instance, where it's had no effect whatsoever. And then other areas where it can increase flood risk. And it's just purely on the sort of the water course itself, and then sort of we model it without, and sort of not touching. So yeah, it can. It's all individual to that.
But you are looking at that, you'll be doing that next year.
Well, it's it's included in different areas. It's not to say on the corporate, it's not my team, sorry, to say
Right.
the weed removal, but I do know the teams are looking at sort of weed removal in certain areas. Because they'll look at things like that.
Please the local fishermen.
Sorry?
It would please the local fishermen.
Yeah, that's what we aim to
It was
do.
on the news tonight actually about sealing the rivers and killing the fish.
Crossing the weirs.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
wasn't just the end.
Well, no, it was just water quality in general. The Rivers Trust is having a big push. Was that a thing on Saturday talking about it? And the guy was saying, as you say, the weirs aren't the be all and end all. It's the silting up and the slowing down the river on bends and things, and it's causing more harm than good in ways.
Yeah, definitely. It's about we're looking back to it as well, sort of now sort of we're realising sort of that the Victorian way of sort of managing flood risk wasn't sort of not completely wrong, but sort of wasn't always the right way to do things. Sort of to only drainage feeding into an already at capacity sort of water course and things isn't always that clever. So we're looking at sort of the pre-Victorian, where we look at sort of natural flood management, which is what beavers do and things like that. So we're looking at sort of these sorts of ways and putting where we've strained water courses before, putting the natural bends in and things, and letting the river sort of do its own thing, and all in sort of managing sort of flood risk, but also managing sort of wildlife and biodiversity at the same time. So, are you happy then if I leave it with you to have a discussion and sort of to take it forward, or shall I wait to hear
Well,
get results from yourself?
I mean, everybody's happy out to do that. I'll email Lisa to say we have this,
Yeah.
we're keen to proceed.
Yeah.
And then we'll, if I email her and copy you in, and then you can kind of arrange if you need to have a chat with her or get, do a draft or whatever.
Brilliant, yeah, that sounds good. Can I leave some volunteer forms with
Yeah.
yourself? Is that okay?
I'm sure they wouldn't say no, but I think we'd be keen to proceed even without it.
Yeah.
If they say no, we're still happy to go ahead.
But everyone loves to keep you.
Obviously, from here,
One thing we'll get the best, that's it.
Outlying communities that aren't actually part of Felton Parish and things, is there anywhere else that's at risk that doesn't have like a community like what we've got that we should be including?
trying to think.
I'm thinking like Accrington guys out this way type of thing, downstream from us and things that, that
Weldon, something like that.
yeah, Weldon, that should be like within the same communication network as us.
Yeah, you can have it as large as you want, and so that's brilliant, because obviously Weldon Mill has had sort of issues as well, so yeah, 100%. As I said, so with these plans, so we can have huge large plans for sort of towns and cities, and then we can have individuals, sort of like for instance, sort of East Mill and Morpeth has its own plan that then sits within the Morpeth plan. So if you want to have it larger, or basically those properties themselves want to just have their own individual plans, it's up to them.
That's sort of similar to our boundary behind you there, so
Alright,
it
yeah.
does cover quite a large expanse.
So yeah, however, like, so if I have a Felton Parish plan, and then I'll incorporate, and I'll look at our progress maps, and I'll put in the vulnerable locations that I can see, and then so when we have a sit down, you go, well, what about this area, what about that area, and then we'll just make it as solid as we possibly can.
I'm quite keen to kind of, with regards to an agriculture area, like farms as well that are satellite to us as well.
Yes. So yeah, 100% we can have all of that incorporated, because they're all going to then benefit from those earlier warnings, aren't they? Yeah, and farms are probably going to be the ones that
I guess
benefit.
maybe you could
most of us.
send us the flood risk map for us for our parish, but also maybe for the parishes, the
So
board,
actually,
like our
yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
neighbours, because then we could say, well, it makes more sense for us to include this settlement because we've got the road to the water,
Well, what I'll do is I'll give you the risk map, the fluvial risk map, so from rivers, and then I'll give you the surface water risk maps as well. So then you'll have both, yeah.
Because we're also involved with the river water quality sampling scheme, which is being set up and down the Pocket, and we need to put out a warning And we want that to stop anyone from.
Quite,
Sample this.
Hopefully people would be a bit sort of,
Yeah, but
there's a good sign when it's sort of,
But I can see someone
Please take a sample and
like
drink
taking
water.
just feeling that responsibility, but it's my sample day, and if I miss today, I've screwed up the whole project.
The day after, Felton, Ian, Felton and I were down trying to liberate that bench from the other side of the road, and there was people in the pub car park across from Thurston, coaxing their dog into the water to get to go for a swim.
It was still kind of time as well.
I'm sorry, but sort of sometimes you just can't.
Yeah, but then that's the situation where you've got the dog to go in, and then the dog gets into difficulty, and they go in to rescue it.
And then they end up in the
So
drawer.
we went across to say, you know, do you realise what you're doing is ridiculous, and well, didn't think it was that bad, and
Of course, they don't know what's normal for
Yeah,
us.
yeah. So, but it's stuff like that. What would seem obvious to some people would be, you know, graciously receive guidance, you know, put things on, saying the river is twice the height it normally is, don't walk this path, don't do this, don't let your dogs in the river, where's your children, that sort of stuff.
You will still always get sort of some people ballers. I mean, we sort of issue alerts and warnings to the coastline, and then it seems to be a free-for-all, so everybody go and get a selfie. And we tell people to go away, and they all sort of want to go and get
This can be the appeal.
I think where we are is a sheer.
Just traffic jams.
Yeah, and the back there was incredibly thick because once it stops in it, it'll flow into the river.
Yeah.
You just,
Just, yeah, it really does.
It's that bit of it that people wouldn't think of, isn't it? The burns and the streams and stuff.
back there.
If it can't discharge, sort of it's just got it just comes out, and that's sort of unfortunately the properties there that were impacted. And it's devastating when you go to people's. I've spent pretty much the last sort of month and a half in people's homes that have sort of 2 foot of water and things in it, and it's not nice. So I'll leave you to it if that's all right. I've left the forms there. You just fill them in, and sort of you can scan them and email across to me. So if you're happy to do so. And yeah, we'll sort of progress it. I'll send across these maps, and I'll start the plan. If that's okay with you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you very much. And if any questions or anything, ask.
You were never here.
Yeah. No, sort
Well,
of,
yeah, 10 o'clock explaining.
we're not expecting sort of the river levels to rise above the flood alert. So just in case anybody comes to you and says sort of we're getting a bit panicky and things, but obviously sort of there has been an impact. We're expecting it sort of drop down after that. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And remember, get highways a kick. Sorry? Remember, get highways a little kick for the road.
I will do, definitely.
They just emailed me randomly, just literally like 2 days before I was like the agenda out, said, "Oh, I'll be interested, I'll come to a talk," and I was like, "Excellent, can you come next Monday?" Yeah.
I do think it makes sense to buddy up though.
Oh, no, totally.
I think it's, I think they'll be on board.
It's free, so why not? He's going to do the work.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I think we've got a big group of people in the village that would want to sign up, because I think there's a lot of people who think, "Oh, I want to help, don't know how to help."
I actually thought that John was on the brink of hyperventilating with excitement over the whole thing.
I think it's, there's no chainsaws involved.
John loves a bit of high vis and
I've got
rainbow.
loads of high vis jackets.
I've got high-vis trousers, haven't I, Gemma?
Yeah, we'll have you all with the flood team on the back.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Flood board,
Give us
yeah.
a minute. The interesting thing will be though to find out when, well, we know where some of the problem areas are, but
The wider spread areas,
Yeah.
thing like farmland that's affected and like up okay and down.
it's for very minimal cost, we could actually be ready to help. You know, you know, half of the sandbags
Yeah.
in a place just in time to save someone's house.
Yeah.
You know, so and we do have a good population of people in the area that want to help out. And, you know, we should, you know, that's what we're here for, isn't it? It's really refreshing to see people walking around the village with a shovel full of brick the other day. That was quite nice. Yeah. Seeing parents on the way to school tripping great up.
Yeah.
That's great. A good community. Yeah.
No, just I think just we would really definitely that we're going to go ahead and get first involved if we can.
Do we just have a show of hands over this or are we going for
Is that
a
what you asked me?
It's a high-vis jacket.
Yeah, that's it.
Clincher. You don't get
I
that.
haven't got a yellow hand jacket, the rest of it's yellow.
Oh, mine is yellow.
Mine's all orange with the RSU.
I'm interested to see what training gets offered as well.
Well, I was quite interested in
When you said about pumping.
Yeah, the pumping stations and fire stations.
Great, if I show us how to use some pumps and that.
You might just addended floods when you have to get like,
No, it'd be a disaster.
Sorry,
Oh, yeah, put it out.
Where would I pump that? Straight out the door.
Just get it, pump it in and pump it out.
Once we've seen how it does the flood control, so we can just stop us mirroring it or using it as a template to do like a snowball, because then that is another issue.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, absolutely.
It'll be slightly different, but there'll be a lot of
But
similarities.
then some, as you say, some people are doing it, but you maybe have volunteers that then will, start getting a bit of a street or whatever from local vendors.
But we could, when you put the message out from volunteers and stuff, you can actually put the message out and say, look, what equipment do you have ready there? Like, I have a pump.
Yeah.
I know Scott has a pump.
Yeah.
And I know Lee has a pump. So you just think, well, if somebody's house is not going to get flooded, that's three.
Yeah.
And
well, it's stuff like,
Immediate action is always better than waiting for things to happen.
You've got plenty of places to store sandbags.
right,
So.
sandbags, not handbags.
They used it.
Oh, yeah, right.
No, it's good, it's really good.
oh, well, I've just got John in the high.
We didn't talk about, I'll go get it out of the car if you want. We didn't talk about, working party, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think this, yeah, it's a good way to start and use it to kind of model it for over events.
Yeah, it's extreme cool.
And stop like the electricity blackouts, things like that.
As an aside, can somebody with muscles please move the sand bin or the grid bin outside of High House back to the wall?
I think it was deliberately put there to stop cars parking into the shop.
On the path?
Yeah.
Will
Very
you park
good.
there?
I'm pretty sure that's the reason why it was moved. Asked Harry if it was strategically placed and he said yes.
Well, it's strategic because no,
Triple
triple over it
over,
now.
right.
It got moved for scaffold. That's when it got moved forward.
Just inch it back, like an inch every day.
I can't move it. I have tried.
Is it being filled up?
It's
since
really
it-
heavy. Really heavy.
So basically,
And the next snow will empty a little out of it.
Right.
But you probably don't want to put it too close to the property either, because you'll get getting down behind it and.
But it always sat just about so far off the property,
uh,
which is quite good. And now it's like this far off the property. And
I'll have a go at it
people
next
going up and
time.
down or ending up
Walking around it.
dodging around.
I'll have
It's
a
not
go at it.
ideal.
I'll have a go the next time
It's a
we're
big
around.
bollard in the middle of the pavement that is metal.
Back to, yeah, three, questions? No? Okay, well, supposed to move on. Approved minutes as kept to the record of the previous meeting on the 6th of November, 2 to 5. Everyone read them? Yeah, everyone happy? Yeah? Show of hands. Right, no, you went there. And 6. Financial summary and budget monitoring, 27th November.
I've got a question on that one.
It's not a hard question.
Only easy questions tonight.
I was going to say hard ones have to be submitted at least 24 hours in advance. So.
I'm really going to raise today.
The house is absolutely freezing.
I'm a bit cold as that was my brain.
It's the final ticket, general reserves.
Yes.
Any unspent funds at year end. I don't understand how it's minus 5,100.
On the cemetery. That's the cemetery committee. Because we've spent money out of reserves, we haven't transferred them across. So when we bought our benches, for example, and things like that. We haven't received in the income yet, so
does that mean what we're saying?
no. So the cemetery committee hasn't had its parish contributions in yet, so it's going to get 4,300 in, and it will have spent slightly, so it'll have to move some money. But we've got these reserve pots. We've talked about getting rid of the cherry tree one and possibly the consecration one, because I believe they're consecrating as they go now. So it really just needs tidying up, I think, and so that'll reduce once we get our contributions in from each council.
Had a donation of £50.
Yeah, that'll decrease once we get our donations
So that
from
was
each council.
basically the benches pushed us over the budget.
Yeah.
So you've had to move stuff from reserves.
Yeah, but it needed doing, because it did push us over budget, but the budget's sort of,
There was money,
the budget
there was money in there that
The
was
budget basically-
to come out.
because we're not asking, because the budget isn't, so when we do the budget for the parish council, we then go into county council and say this is how much we need to raise off the council tax. When we do the budget for the cemetery, it's to give us an idea of what we want from each parish council towards expenditure. So we could go to each, when we say to the parish councils we want 2,000 off you and 2,000 off you, whatever the amounts might be, really what we're saying is we need money to pay your share of the expenditure as it arises. Now the benches were unusual expenditure, so we could go to each of the parish councils and say, well, this is your contribution, but we also need a little bit towards these benches, or we could take it out of the reserves, because these figures here, these are kind of historic figures, the 10,525 for the new cemetery fund. That was when there was a spate, I think that was put in place when there was a big spate of burial, it was like a kind of
We had a bumper year of 10.
a few, and it felt like we might run out, but it has really slowed down. We only really get one or two, it's going to be quite some time before we fill the cemetery up, we think, on the current rate. So
the new cemetery fund.
yeah,
This
and
is a lot of money.
it is.
It's holding reserve.
It is, and this is one of the things we sort of,
Actually,
yeah. So that's why we haven't gone to the parish councils to say, can we have money for the benches yet? Because I think that's the kind of year-end decision to make about, look, do we roll this money over into the next financial year, or do we just say now, actually, we don't really need to hold this level of reserve in this cemetery?
There's stuff we've got
Yeah.
reserves.
So it's kind of like Park's decision. It looks like a big deficit, but it isn't really.
We've given
It's
them
not, it's not a deficit that's worrying me at the moment.
There's 4,000.
Yeah, it's 4,000 due in.
Exactly.
Anyway.
And then there's a lot of funds there and stuff to.
So it's not, I have already actually thought about that question. Hopefully you can tell. Yeah, no, it's not something it's not a deficit that at the moment I think particularly. We have spent more this year than we have normally spent in the 7 years, but we've made some quite big
But
things.
some of the benches.
Yeah.
And we've had a new one.
Yeah.
And the bin store.
On the bin store, and we've ordered a seat
And
tree.
more repaired
then.
and stuff like that as well. So
We've
yeah.
done lots. We've had a good year.
We ever have the skip?
Not yet, because it got too wet.
Too wet.
And then it's
It's
been
not
wet again. So I think
rained,
it's
it's rained all year, isn't it?
springtime, June time.
hopefully it'll last.
We said September, and then September and October.
It's
it's
not
not-
not that sort of stuff that rocks, though, that's the problem.
That's all plastic.
Cellophane and rocks.
It's the stuff that shouldn't be down there anyway. So
Yeah.
it just has it, but it just.
I mean, Peter is doing a little bit every now and then into the normal thing, but it's just,
Keeps
it's
it
practice.
tight.
It has long.
Feels like we're getting quite quickly, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Anyone got a big dinner?
Yes.
Is that what we're going to do for the skip when we get the skip?
Yep. I'll see you right now.
What can I do?
A little mini digger?
You'll sit in there and just point it out for us.
Road is highways first.
Yeah.
Can't say floodboard on that one.
It's a
Shit removal.
Refuse processing technician version to do
I'll come with that.
Waste processor.
Yeah.
No, but then you have to have a license for your waste processing, don't you?
What mover?
Up mover. There you go. Any other questions?
I've got some on the payments to approve.
Okay.
Okay, we'll get to that one.
So it's
Ah. look, 2BB. We've got financial and budget monitoring information, Parish Council questions presented and how.
Oh, yes. Sorry, that's from last month, but
Last
actually
month.
we kind of, me and Alan just need to put our heads together.
Yeah, you
Done that yet.
Not together then. C, authorised payments.
Payments, questions?
Yeah, we seem to have gone over budget in quite a few places. I can see, I mean, so the tree surgery, there was nothing left in the budget for that one. Repfield, the RLL limit, is that the big?
That's the big tractor, yeah.
Parallel as Royal Landscapes,
Yeah.
it's the grass cutting, correct?
So why don't we spend £2,400?
That's that.
That's RL's the
That's
last thing.
regularly,
That payment.
That's the big,
agreement.
that's the whole
That's
year.
right.
Put it on the right.
So 240 is for the,
So we haven't got anything left in, oh no, we've got 3340 in the budget. Right, okay, sorry, ignore that. London Hearts,
so this is the defib relator that we
which is
talked about.
750, we've got 170 in the budget.
Yeah, so that's that's how to come out general reserves.
The tree surgery, when did that come from?
It was
It was
tree
emergency.
fell down in the wreck that was overlying
Was it
various.
Yeah,
it was
I saw.
emergency removal
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, I saw the tree, I was thinking more money.
That,
So, did that come out of general reserves? Because it's not an earmark.
the tree was due to come down in the tree works which is planned,
Yeah.
but
Right.
But if you,
Where's that in the budget?
was it next?
well, yeah,
It surely should come out of general reserves.
yeah,
It's an un-
Cost.
but it'll affect,
scheme, isn't it?
it'll effectively come out of,
You've got your heads of expense, which is going to be environment stroke
Yeah.
riverside.
so it's come out of that. So if you look at the environmental funds, we've spent 6,700, which is the tree surgery, but also it's the ramp payments, which we're hopefully getting back in from Trevor Thorne once he gets around to
Yeah.
filling his forms in. So at the moment we're 578.29 over budget, that's from general reserves, but actually we're going to be, we start the year with 6,000, we've only really spent 1,000 because the ramp payments should be covered, some of the ramp payments should be covered by Trevor.
Right. So, 6,700, but we spent all that. The 6,000 payment year to date, environmental riverside.
But we're due to
Yeah.
get payment back in from.
So that 6,700 is our two initial payments to the ramp, so it was for him to get the material, so we paid 2 instalments to Jamie for the ramp,
Right.
and we've paid the tree surgery. Now the tree surgery is the true cost to us because that's definitely coming out of our pocket.
Right.
The 2 payments that went to Jamie for the ramp, Trevor has pledged the
They're coming out of
£10,000, so
that.
it should come back in.
That's coming out of county council's Trevor's fund.
Trevor, he's given us, Trevor Thorne's given us £10,000 from his
Yeah.
small scheme,
Right.
whatever it's called.
So that will put us back in the black.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Right, okay. And then the PA for the remembrance.
Yeah.
There's £100 in the budget, and we spent 200.
But we didn't pay last, so there's 2 things about that. First of all, he sort of sent me an email with this year's invoice and saying, oh, I don't think you paid me for last year, but he never sent me the invoice. So this year is astonishingly prompt with him. So that's 2 years worth. So we didn't spend anything last year. And we've also got, somehow, I managed to put the VAT went through twice because I had to do it as a separate payment. Anyway, so he effectively owes us £15 off that amount as well.
But we had,
So we paid with credit.
so we budgeted last year £100, which then was carried forward to this year.
Yeah.
So we're still slightly over budget, but 78 quid.
We are, but this is one of the cemetery ones where really the budget is just giving us an indication of how much we're likely to need from each parish council. So every year we might spend all of the money that the parish councils have paid across because the bills, each council share the bills totals what they've given us. Sometimes we're slightly under, sometimes we're slightly over.
That wouldn't have had a balance carried forward because it's a general thing, not an earmark.
Yeah, but it would just go to general reserves, but it kind of, with the cemetery, you know, if the cemetery budget is really more of an indicative figure to give to the parish councillors about how much their share of expenditure is likely to be. It's not, so that, it does have an impact, because if the cemetery budget gets wildly out of hand, this money up here, where we've said cemetery contribution, our cemetery contribution is set at this year, 1,784. Obviously, that's what the cemetery, based on the cemetery budget that we put together, that's what we think Felton will have to contribute to cover its share of the expenses.
So that's what.
If we start spending more and more and more, this figure will creep up and we'll end up spending out of our general reserves here. So yeah, it's one to keep an eye on, but as I say, we've got those pots of money at the cemetery that have been sitting there, they don't really do anything, these ones. And I think the attitude of the cemetery committee has been really, you know, we'll run those down a little bit and then, you know, we'll look at it. We did put more into the cemetery budget, we did quite a high cemetery budget this year, so next year the contributions from the parish councils will be higher, and that's already planned in our budget that it's going to be a higher contribution towards the cemetery expenditure. So,
Can I make a suggestion? This is only a suggestion. Payments for approval.
yeah.
I mean, everyone can cope with spreadsheets, presumably. Could you put it, I mean, if you put it as a spreadsheet attached to the email, you could then put comments in the, if requested. I don't find that the boxes and figures all that easy to work with. I find it much easier to work with a spreadsheet as a file attached to an email.
Yeah.
I don't know what anyone else thinks about that, but it's nice to know when you are being asked, because it's our job to approve these payments, isn't it? So if there is detail in there of the budget that that's going against and what that representing of the budget, I think that will give us a better idea of what we're approving.
Or would you want, for instance, you're under another column where next to your head of expenditures that then says, well, rec field budget, we still have 10,000 remaining.
Yeah.
We can have
So
another column
budget for
that says remaining budget.
yeah, like salaries and expenses were well within the budget.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Okay.
Do
So
you
just
want
add it, yeah.
Just have another column that just says remaining budget.
But what I'll do, I'll
To that
drop it in the
expenditure.
agenda, because then that means I can upload it as one document, but I can easily
Yeah.
send the payments file can come as a Excels. It can come as both.
I think you just add it in and
Pre-deduction amount. Pre-deduction amount. Not what will be left after. So that's a grey area.
Yeah.
So if
the
there's
cemetery.
yes, so for instance, the Felton Village Hall fund, you'd have that there, and then maybe if there was £500 left, you would say there's £500 in the kitty, and this is how much you want to spend.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
So potentially a
budget prepayment.
potentially a pre-column on this table here.
Yes.
Or existing budget.
Yeah, existing. Yeah.
Yeah.
People would pay.
Yeah, exactly. How much
Okay.
money we've got to
Yeah.
spend and how much we're asking to spend, yeah.
Because then you can see very quickly.
But I don't think it
You've
needs
got a £1,000 bill and a £200 budget. You can go, well, we're paying this one.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, it's already in the separate sheet.
It's all point budgeted.
Not early in town.
Yeah, so then we have this month's salary expenses. That will be the last one that the payroll provided us, and we'll move next month back to the basic HMRC tools.
The return of the grant.
George F. White, chart surveyor fees. You saw the email I sent out earlier in the month about the fees. So we've got one of their accounts departments been chasing up all the debt, which is including us, which is coincidental after spoke about it at the last meeting. And she's offered a, whatever, I think she said a 10% reduction, which would bring the total payable down to that. I don't know whether anybody's got any thoughts. I would just suggest that, because we're not meeting until February, if we want to agree, like, we should maybe agree, if we're not agreeing to pay the whole amount and we're going to go back with a counter offer or a plan, if we can agree as much of it as possible so that I can do as much as possible without having to come back for a further decision.
So incremental increases of.
Yeah. And then this one, I mean, this is, remember we got the grant last year and they finally provided the bank details of where some of the funds that we can use back to.
As far as the George White invoice, how can we not pay it? If they say the work's been done,
Yeah.
whether it was satisfactory or not, it's still been done.
But wasn't according to their conditions, said that would be given an invoice back to £500, which we weren't. And then there was a dispute as to whether what we actually did was what was asked.
What, do you know what was asked of them?
Yeah, we've got an engagement there. I mean, is this something that we should maybe have a smaller working group to kind of sit down with me and look through and propose a course of action, even if we have time for it? We kind of need to go back.
Well, is it something that the finance committee can actually talk to George White about rather than just send emails back for? You know, have a team's meeting or something.
Do you want to just delegate the job to the finance committee and then that they have authority to take that decision as we're really happy with?
At the end of the day, it's an invoice for work carried out, and if we're not happy with the work that was done,
Yeah.
then querying it this far after is a bit off.
Well, that's single.
Well, it was queried at the time, I think.
That's why it wasn't paid, because it was
But
being.
have we ever said you've not done what we asked you to do?
I think we did say that, I can't remember if this is the thing, I would have to go back through, it's quite historic really, and have to go through the emails at the time and see what was said exactly on the point of costs and how forceful we were at the time, and so maybe it could be a finance committee.
My only fear would be if we mess them around and they decide to take further action, then Parish Council could incur legal fees against that.
Even just defending it, yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite exactly.
Probably more than that to defend it.
Not that I'm
No, I
not
know.
that I'm saying we should pay for work that wasn't done very well or work that wasn't carried out, but if they were instructed by us.
So we go back with a counter offer of £2,000 and just write it off.
Well, when, at the time, I think it was before all of us, wasn't it? But I think at the time, if what I said, we'll be billed in £500 increments. If this wasn't happening, why wasn't that called on at the time? You know, and good.
But I think it was
good
more
practice.
because we didn't, we had, I suppose we should have, yeah.
Well, due diligence,
We should have said, do you have you reached that far? But I guess that, the assumption was that we have reached that amount because we have builders for it.
Well,
And then
good,
the law
good
reference.
practice would be to keep on top of something like this.
Yeah.
If you have somebody working on your behalf, if you're instructing somebody to do something, you know, due diligence goes both ways. And I just don't want to end up costing us more money. If you would count them back at a better reduction, that's a win in my eye. If they would take around
So,
figure, then you know,
2.5 is it?
Two, 4, 1, and that.
But that's then reducing by 10%. Probably.
Yeah. And we'll include that, I think that's, is that inclusive of VAT from memory? Just
you claim the VAT back anyway.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I recall correctly, it was meant to be transfer payments of £500.
Yeah.
Monthly payments of £500 drag it out.
No, but it was more that they were supposed to, I think Anne's point is that they were supposed to let us know when they reached that. It was more kind
There
of,
was no communication, and the chap that was doing the work left. He did no detailed plans of what had been spent, how it had been spent, how it had been allocated, which is what had been asked for. And all the way through the bill was queried because we had no evidence of what had been done for the money that we were paying.
Just go back to
Just-
say,
so just put it-
will pay costs.
Time, what was asked of them? I don't know what we
It was the
engaged the
head of
services for.
surgery.
this was agreeing, it was
Right, the head of terms, okay.
negotiating their terms.
And
Are we likely to
We got-
them again?
No, but just so we got to final that we've been there in terms of,
No, we've moved it to somebody else and they,
okay, did we use their document as a draft for it, or did
I honestly don't know anything.
No, I think we agreed. I think we didn't.
We didn't take theirs as a draft. Because there was all sorts
This is
of
what I mean.
questions asked about the integrity of what was done. Because there was a lot of collusion between various people beyond George F. White and Parish.
So that might be exclusively you two.
So my question then, is it only George White's fault? Or are we to blame for not keeping a lot of things?
I think it was COVID,
Yeah, well,
and I think there was a lot of things happened where people were not kept in the loop by the person working for George F. White as to what was happening. Even his own staff didn't know what, he hadn't billed hours or anything, so it was very confused as to what was done. And then there was talk of allegiances between NHS commissioner people and George F. White to pull things together that
I think
weren't
you're right.
necessarily good for us.
I think you're right. Perhaps the conversation's going to go forward because that's why this is.
I think I just think the next letter that's ending might be a,
but
cost of that.
do we say as a gesture of goodwill, we're willing to make a payment of £1,000 to close the matter? And see how that proceeds.
Well, have we written to them with any level of discontent over how this has been dealt with at all? Or have we just been set this bill and then this is where we are?
I think we questioned it, but I don't know how much we were.
I think the question, like, I can recall being questioned, we asked for a breakdown of it and we couldn't provide, and then he apologised for that, but still.
But prior to that, I'm sure it was questioned at the time.
I'll have to think stuff out and go through.
I think we need to go through it, and then I think we need to send them, put it in writing that, this is not being dealt with the way that we would envisage someone of their high standard of work to be doing something, and that
We're willing to make a good gesture and we're willing to make a payment, just to,
Yeah,
it's not going to go away.
Well, it's not, but I think it's, if they've not even been made aware that we have not been happy with what they've done, then I
They
don't think
were very aware that we weren't happy,
right,
because we moved our business from them to somebody else.
right.
But that's doesn't sort of mean that we got off without paying them for
Oh, no,
the
that
business.
wasn't
It's
the
like,
intent, but they didn't bill us. Because the guy that was there, that was doing the work, left, and hadn't left any paperwork. Their own company
and
didn't
then
know
we
how to
did-
bill us.
And
But
then we
don't
also
pay
did
us.
never chase for a bill,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, but.
It was Richard Carlton that was in there, if we were to contact him and the conversation and say, look, we aren't happy, we weren't happy, and feel like approved value for money, so what can we do?
I mean, I think Richard, when he emailed and said, I did discuss this with Andy at the time. We were confident in our grades reflecting the progress of work and over the number of features such as written correspondence, which the invoice covered all of those elements. It doesn't have a detailed timesheet due to the timescale of the job and the way Andy was working. However, they would have been happy to send that through, so on. Andy's hourly rate under the terms of business would have been £165 per hour, so that would equate to 12.5 hours unsatisfied being carried out on the project, and also records the progress made towards the heads of terms.
So does that sound very fine then?
That was quite a while ago though.
Yeah. It sounds quite final to me, and it's kind of them saying, we have done sufficient work for you and made sufficient progress for us to feel comfortable charging you this amount of money.
I And he did facilitate, and you know, whether or not we agree that he was, I know it was discussion at times whether we felt that he had his best, our best, and you know, whether he was truly advocating for us fully. But he did facilitate a number of meetings with the trust and sat in those.
So how long did that take? Because it was work free.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's probably where all the money went.
If we got a budget for this that went severely over on,
So it's one of those, we're also then getting, it's going to be partially covered, I guess, almost covered by the money from Zoom.
Well, and also our current solicitor, so we haven't, it's only recently sort of like the latest bit of work, you know, where our solicitor kind of came back and said that they would need to spend it, because the solicitor we swapped to, their fees effectively got covered by the agreement with the Shore, because the Shore got a certain amount towards legal fees, and that's been being used up by our current solicitors, so.
I mean, I think that amount of money gets amounted very, very easily. And I think if it's not vastly over what we thought we were going to be paying, or you know, any agreement, then I am inclined to just want to pay it, draw a line under it, and move on, because every time we enter into this issue, we put ourselves at risk of incurring more costs. And you know, and also utilising the time of you know ourselves and the clerk.
You said 12 hours at 0.65.
12 and a half.
12 and a half at 0.65. So then that number must be close to 80.
Yes, because they said, well, that's the total amount payable, isn't it?
Excuse me, I'll get this.
Yeah, that was not.
Hello? Yeah, but then, hello?
And we have got money sitting, you know, we have a reserve that we've held for this purpose, that we haven't done anything with, have we? So, close your eyes and do the busy. We have a chart space cost, we've got 2924 sitting there.
How much? Where is it?
2924.
2924.
Chartered surveyor's costs.
Yeah.
So that must be the amount
So
that was considered.
what's the
No, it was
fee
higher than that, because I think it was 3.5, and then we took money out of it when we were looking at our.
Okay, so it still covers it.
Comes in the sum.
Does that fee that they're charging less than 10%, is that inclusive of VAT? Yeah?
I'll check.
Yeah.
Or
I don't think it was clear in the email, was it?
how long has that been sitting in the reserve?
Oh, since we started this work.
Yeah.
Quite a while.
Do we then say we'll go back, just be cheeky and ask for a little bit extra? We'll get even to 2,000?
Well, they've already said that the
You know,
10%
then that-
reduction is a gesture of goodwill on their part.
Good, but get gesture of good ability, another 10% on that. Or,
Sounds like they're going to clocked up.
Well, he wasn't there long either, sort of feel like he,
seems that you calmed down then. And left them and watch of that.
yeah, I think so.
Okay, to be honest, if you look through all the old documents, that'll probably take you in time.
And then
Mhm.
Or where a bit for any
Yeah, and I think they probably need to know that the level of discontent we've had is if saying we are paying this, however we've taken our business elsewhere following this experience.
Yeah.
So we're going to pay it, but we're going to say why we've struggled with this.
Yeah.
In the budget
Well,
office.
why, because we could ask them why it took them 3 years to query it.
Yeah. Okay.
In line with their willingness to depose 10%, I think we should depose 10% in our offer. in,
So we go
that's the way
down.
business works.
So
You
we
don't
go
just
down
pay-
10%.
So let's say we'll pick an even 2,000.
I think it's probably worth a phone call about it first.
Yeah, just
Just pass on, yeah.
Just content.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable with them giving us a bill and then us paying less than that.
No, yeah.
We've got to have a
I'll give the
conversation.
girl
with
that's emailed me a call at first and
That's
just
all
say,
we
sure,
do.
to speak to Richard directly, I will, but I'll speak to her first because she's presumably.
Richard's partner, I would speak to him. He's the one that sent the email saying that he felt Andy's time was well justified, so I think he's the.
That's just corporate management. He's
Yeah.
not going to send another. He's not going to say it's waste of space. And
Richard also knows the village, knows what's involved and what's been done. We can pass on our dissatisfaction with how it was handled, then he might be able to authorise a better reduction. And say, look, we want to get this closed as well. I'm not losing anything apart from your time, which does have a cost, so we can be
I'll be quick
mindful
on the
of that.
phone.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll ring Richard and then we'll propose £2,000.
we have a vote on
Yep, happy with that.
Do you want me to come back to you? What if they say no?
If he says no,
Can I go in at the figure that they proposed?
yeah, just to close the
And tell them
matter.
we'll pay him at £500 quarters over the next 3 years.
We'll get a
We'll get
wagon
an
full
invoice, we'll get an
wagon full of
invoice
pennies.
that. We have a vote on that as well.
So,
Yeah. Happy with the proposal. So we're
I'm
just
going
going to phone them,
yeah,
have a discussion, raise their dissatisfaction,
offer 2,000.
offer 2,000. If it's rejected, we'll then
I'll come back, I'll not do it on the same phone call.
not the thing. We'll come away, leave a couple of days, and then put through the payment they've requested.
Before this video is after, yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Happy with that?
Right, sorry, that's a bit of a painful one.
Yes, out of the way.
So on that basis, happy with all those payments?
Yes.
And you're happy for me to, different related for me to smaller?
Yeah. Defibrillator, yes. You're not there.
Yeah.
Defibrillator. Finalise patient and approve expenditure for installation.
So so I sent an email from them, basically if we pay it, the next step is for me to just pay the £750 across, that will then trigger the match funding and we will get our defibrillator by courier or I don't know, I guess it'll arrive. The slight concern I have is that once we sort of press that trigger and it arrives, we have a 4-week, the conditions are we have a 4-week window to get it installed. I did go back to them and say, what happens if we have somebody ready and then they fall ill or the weather's bad or they can't install them for a 4-week extension, and I didn't get a really sensible response. I just got can you let us know if you need anything? So it wasn't really helpful. So they haven't answered that question specifically. I guess that's one to cross. I don't realistically think that they would say, you have to send it back. As long as we've got a timeline for it, I guess we're probably going to be okay. So if I go ahead and pay it, we do need to then be ready to get it installed and to approve expenditure, which means we need a patient and a person. Well, we suggested last time, so originally it was the last one was on the running fox wall, it got moved up to here. There is, I know that other places have them in the phone box, but we quite like the phone box. In the phone box, somebody suggested it got mounted, can't be mounted on the bridge wall because the bridge is listed, but we could potentially put, I think you can get boards installed on like a board beside the electricity box.
There is a pole that goes up from the electricity box that has no purpose now at all, so it could have a board on it with a couple of brackets and put above the electricity box.
So it's just really, I don't think it's a huge job because I think it's just a connection.
So
we need to get an electrical person.
But are we happy if I went out and found, I'm sure it's the kind of thing that I think we would be able to find key codes for, and then we'll go with the sensor that's seen out in the way.
we
I don't know, I feel like we have no idea the cost of that.
What would be involved in putting it into the electric box?
What's just the bridge?
Slot a wire down and plug it in the plug.
Do you mean the one on the bridge?
Yeah. Is it on the bridge?
If you
No,
spur
it's
off
just
the
on-
it's like
problem,
born,
to be
isn't it,
fair,
on the grass?
300 quid, but if you need
It's on the
it,
glass.
1,500, easily cover it.
Highway.
No, just,
So
That's
is
it.
that
so
gonna
that we
still
don't have to
fall
then come
foul
back, oh
against
shit, we
the
can't
rules?
afford it.
No, because the wall comes round like that, and then the box is there.
Is it our land? So what's our land? Is it highways land? Do we need to speak to them? Right, we don't need to speak to them.
What's that box, or is it?
But we
Box belongs to us.
Right,
But
okay.
presumably put it further, if, you know, it could go on the sort of grass, it could go slightly further down as long as it's, as
No,
long as
I mean, I think it needs to be end of that box so that you can see it from the bridge in that junction, because it needs to be visible. If we move it back so it's like onto the riverside strip, you know, you'd have to know it
But
was
if it's
there.
going
so
on,
it was
if it's
there.
going on an existing pole, it's not actually affecting any.
We need to put a little bit of money in there for something for it to mount to.
Yeah.
Probably a bit of heavy weight shooting board, weatherproof board, and a couple of big brackets to hold it to the pole.
Yeah, but the same.
But I mean, we've got, so basically what I'm saying is if I pay the money upfront, we'll then have to put our skates on to get it done.
I think it's just
But we've got Christmas in 4 weeks as well.
Why was it moved from the running clocks to the greens?
We think
Like
because
the-
there was an obviously issue with floating the banner, also it's tripping the electric, we think it's tripping the electrics.
Yeah, I believe it was tripping the alarm, yeah. Right. Well, people live nearby.
Has the, I know it's obviously not our parish, but has the Thurston bus, there's no, is there just into the bus shelter?
Nothing on that corner at all.
Did we mount it on the railings outside the box?
Well, it still has to be tapped into the electric, so doesn't it? I think, unless there's a good reason for us not to put it where we're saying, we're just looking for backup plans here.
I know, I think we just,
Because I think we need to find out if we can do it there, and if we can do it.
Yeah.
so I think we just pay the money and then we should keep chasing them about the what if we can't, you know, I imagine that if we can't, we just have to return it to them, you know, that's when, you know, they'll
Yeah.
return us the,
Or can we find an alternative location
Yeah.
in the village?
yeah.
There's a few electricians in the village.
Exactly.
Yeah, not saying that we could easily get quotes from here.
And like I said, I don't think it's, I don't feel like
I
it's.
just don't think we'll get done in 4 weeks from now with Christmas. I think that will be January first.
Don't forget.
Oh, no, no, bear in mind that-
4 weeks will be working day, whatever, we said on
This
6.
is what I mean, it's, when I've asked that question, it's not specific.
It might be 4 weeks from when you receive it, which it could be 4 weeks until we receive it.
Yeah, it's
You know,
it's one of these.
Yeah, so like,
Right.
we're
So
not,
you're
not as if
not-
they're going to get special delivery the next one to their steps tomorrow morning.
That would be our luck though.
No. Yeah,
It
it's,
will also be our luck, because if we've got a store on it, because we're worried about this,
and
somebody
somebody
will
needs it.
park it on the bridge and we won't be there to.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you can phone an emergency electrician, you absolutely have to.
And I think it can,
And it's like 100 quid, isn't it?
No, I say, like, do we then say, well, we authorise to spend up to £1,500 potentially for a board for going on there and an electrician to
But it-
get it installed. You know, rather than just,
because it comes with the,
Give us
I'm pretty sure it
a
comes with the cabinet, doesn't it? So,
yeah.
So we just need a board to put a cabinet on and then fasten it to the pole.
How good's the pole? What is it, like a lamppost pole or something?
It's a proper hollow pole that the wire went up to take the 3 lights,
So would it be something like,
steel, something.
you know, the really big Jubilee clips, is it something that can be fixed to the back of the board and just be pulled onto the pole? Rather than putting a board there?
Possibly.
I think it needs to identify.
A big green board.
I think it'll probably come with one.
I think, yeah, because they can only go with
Good.
I think it'll come with, you just need to put a small
I'm
size
sure
on
that
it,
one,
rock it,
yeah.
it's too plastic to the Dutch.
I think we just need to see what Anna says, okay, funded, so.
So
do it without calling us.
You're on holiday.
Really.
I'm just saying, it does say that they're going to contact you further in regards to delivery. So I hope that we could just say, look, you don't, we're not going to be able to find a contractor for Christmas, please deliver afterwards.
So, should we allocate a budget, allocate it to the property team, let's get it done?
Yeah. Happy with that. So, propose would be an allowance to say £1,500 would be my option to then, I don't ever expect it to get to that amount, but then you've got contingency there basically.
And I think it's such a good thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah. And it just seems the amount of cyclists that use that road and stuff like that. And
These are probably an insulation stuff for it, so, electric safe stuff afterwards.
Yeah.
And things like that.
So that's, I think that.
I have some electricians going to the house on Tuesday, so I can tell them that we'll give us a quote if you want.
Yeah,
Definitely. One.
Yeah. And
There's 3 electricians in the bridge.
well, there is, yeah.
Whether they've left their work.
We used, what's it making? Alex making
this one, so.
Yeah, we use some sort of other tool and waited and waited and waited and waited and waited.
What about, there's somebody else?
Ian.
Yeah.
He's moved.
There's a new-
We still have another electricity work and just up the road.
There's an Andrew box as well.
Right, well, I will get on to them.
Yeah.
Right, happy with them?
Happy with that, so.
Yeah.
Perfect.
8 and 9, nothing from county, nothing from the police. Alan?
Neighbourhood plan. Quite exciting actually. We filled in the form to get, it's called technical support assistance from the locality, which is a grant providing organisation. It's not the same as getting a grant to do the neighbourhood plan, but they're going to do a housing needs assessment, which is very comprehensive actually. It involves all sorts of demographics and all the rest of it. We've got some provisional idea of housing need, and it is 9 people in Felton and another 9 people in Long-Crowd in urgent need of housing. I think that's an official phrase that they use in the county, and that's actually quite a lot for a population of 1,200 people. So I think that's actually quite good, it could be bring about social housing within the village, which I think the next stage.
Just wait, Alan, do they also assess the, like, what kind of stocks need, like, family homes, or is it
It's
accessible?
it's pretty comprehensive.
Yeah, accessible.
That's, so
And,
9 people or 9 households.
They did a survey when they were looking at
Yeah.
developing the garages. That was 9 people within 9 people.
People, yeah, so,
But I think, so it could be households, it could be
Yeah.
individuals.
And is that just the people that are on there, so that's the people on the wait list for county, basically?
I don't know where it came from. They did some sort of housing needs assessment when they were looking at the garages. That 9 people, and then 9 people at Long-Crowd as well, which is quite a lot apparently for we're about 1,200 people in the parish. So
yeah.
I had to look all this stuff up for the form. Whether I did the form right or not, I have no idea. But they seem quite happy with it. So,
Just that
1,200 people in the parish. 1,200. I got that off the internet. I don't know if it's right or not.
I think when we're moving that way.
In our parish? No, our parish hovers around 950 on the electoral roll. But that's obviously include children, but it's,
700 households.
So we'll deliver the vegetable and more than that.
I think,
But
but
just
the
that
bridge
goes-
goes to the parishes, so.
What are you doing?
But that's Thursday, is that Thursday as well, though?
Well, there's not many in comparison.
Maybe only about 900 and something.
This might be prior to the new
Well,
development.
that's what I'm thinking.
No,
Is
the
last
numbers,
census figures?
my electoral roll numbers are definitely not over 1,000.
I don't know how many houses there are.
Sorry, my question was, you mentioned 9 people need housing, but that isn't necessarily now people need social housing.
I believe yes, they describe, really my understanding of this is very sketchy, but they said in urgent need of housing. So I'm
That
guessing
doesn't mean social.
my guess would be that it is, but I can.
I think it is, because I think when
correct.
they were talking about the garages, and we had all of those conversations about the garages, was Rob not talking at the time about, was he not talking at the time about looking at their, you have to put yourself on home finder. I wonder, and then they get ranked, don't they? They get given a score as how urgent their need is, and that links in with the phrasing you're sort of quoting there. So I think it would be a home finder.
I'm going back there, I believe he said we needed 3 social houses.
Should be 3 households then.
But
And then
there's a difference between social housing and needed housing. I'm not
Yeah.
speaking of houses.
Yeah.
I think this is talking about social housing.
But there's a really, I think there's a real need in Felton anyway, thousand rather than a social one.
The interesting thought behind building council houses or houses within a housing group, carbon, I think, the interesting concept about building a lot of them is it helps the area grow, because there's a lot of professional people who can afford to pay a lot for houses, will not come to work in this area because they have to buy a house here. Whereas if there was a provision of a good standard of rental property as well as social housing, then you go like 3, 4, 5 bedroom rental properties.
Yeah.
Which is what Rob was, Rob sort of said. It helps in other ways. People, like teachers with short-term contracts, doctors with short-term contracts, or another professional people like, in your sector and things. They do tend to move them out, and actually, you'd be reluctant to come to an area like Felton and surrounding areas if you have to buy a house and then you have to pay, extra taxes on buying property, whereas if there was better rentable property in the area, as well as social housing, there's 2 poles, there's people who need and there's people who need.
Well, and availability in it, John, because I think that's
Yeah,
half
quite,
of
yeah.
that people that want to come into the village, there's just not even anything to rent there, no anything to buy.
And I think it was talking about the economic growth and things, because Rob was talking about the models that are kind of within Europe and things where the rental uptake and rental availability is much higher. It mobilises the workforce, and that is the real issue that we've got here. But I do know the other statistic that he was saying that for people that are vulnerable that require social housing or accessible housing, or and I think accessible rental properties that are affordable, he was talking about 215 humans for 8 houses that were available. And that is a really quite stark figure.
But the figure would also be massive. The people who are living with friends, living with families who aren't homeless, that are desperate for their own place. And having, like, for instance, the planning legislation on build to rent properties has been drastically lowered to try and get people to build to rent. So I think it is definitely a worthwhile cause, and I think the study would be quite interesting to help out the need for social housing, but also to help out the area as a whole for people who want to stay in the village.
I was going to say,
The next generation's coming, who can buy a house in this village?
And I think this is precisely why we're trying to get this done, so that we can get some figures on it to base on it to see what kind of housing development is going to future-proof the village and what we should be, encouraging and supporting and putting into the neighbourhood plan. Because I think the whole idea is that it's the neighbourhood plan saying, oh yes, we want to support the building of 10 new £500,000 homes, then that probably isn't going to be what's going to be most beneficial to the village as a whole. Which is why you look at, actually get it broken down what the requirements and future requirements are likely to be.
But, just without sounding rude, without considering that, the village as itself doesn't change, it doesn't grow to get any better, and we'll have a new generation coming through that will not be able to live here because there just isn't enough property, and change is coming, and Felton is going to have to grow. And the beauty of the plan, the neighbourhood plan, is we can tailor how we want it to grow. But if we just say we're only going to focus on social housing, it's not going to meet the needs.
Oh no, yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah.
That's why you have to.
The next thing is going to be the start of the whole idea, isn't it?
But I think that's what housing is,
Yeah,
doesn't
that's
have all of it.
Yeah.
The other aspect of this is that we have to be driven by the public consultation with the community, which has only been an informal one so far, but really there was very little support for anything other than social housing.
But with the
So,
right, is it we need to ask different questions though? Is it that people, maybe when we get the housing needs assessment, we say to people, look,
I
this
think
is what
it's
it's saying about the growth of like the next generation or whatever, would you support that? You know,
Yes.
asking the right questions.
I think it's
yeah.
something we can set. So,
And I think once you've got the evidence of the housing needs assessment to then show to the people that come to the thing, you can say, well, this is what we actually need with the evidence here that says it. Because I think I came to one of those drop-ins where nobody turned up at all. So I think, right, apart from my wife and child at least.
Well, they all too willing
Yeah, but then some of the feedback that was given, unfortunately, people didn't want any development in the village, which that's wrong. But if they, maybe us showing them, right, we really need this
well,
social development, housing to rent
it
development.
still has to be voted on in the referendum.
Yeah.
So we've got to sell that to the people.
Yeah.
But that's saying, but then that might stuff like this evidence from the needs assessment will
Yeah.
hopefully persuade those ones against development.
Low cost housing, I think, is definitely would have support. So,
Yeah.
I was quite interested to see that one of the houses on the Belgrade that's a shared ownership is now not a shared ownership unless on the full thing.
It's because they didn't get any uptake within the.
I think we had this one fall that somebody
Oh yeah,
allowed,
it was, and
and
then
then so long elapses,
Yeah.
and then it has to,
and then it has to
go
go
out
to
to the open market.
yeah, so.
I think there's been two that way now.
Mhm.
And
That's quite
and,
sad though, isn't it, that those sort of stepping stones for people getting onto the housing market
But
haven't
even-
been available to
But
be.
even then, I think that's a sign of probably the mortgage rates these days, trying to get a mortgage, even though it's at a heavily discounted price, the local community can't still purchase it at that price, or the shared ownership, or they don't want to, because they don't, but it's.
That's why I like the idea of
The build to rent stuff is actually,
I really like it.
It is possible to do a thing called a community development order, which basically puts in place all the planning permission, and you say, right, if you want to build here and you want to build this, fill your boots. And I think for developers that's a very positive thing, but it's a long, complicated process getting there.
I wonder if some of the local developments in other places, you drive through Atherton, you see where they hold tractor garages to be, and they're quite small bungalows getting up to bigger houses in the corner. And it strikes me that there was a reason why that was done. And there's a similar development in Pegwood, and they're smallish bungalows, and then there's two-story houses on this side of it, and you think, well, actually, they are meeting more of a need than what's seen from the curbside, I think, because you have accessible housing, and you have medium-sized homes as well, and
it's still kind of expensive.
They're still
Oh, I
very
love,
expensive.
but that's the issue, right? Because it doesn't matter if it's kind of expensive, because some people can.
Some people want.
Some people are looking for that. Some people are looking to come out with £1 million house into a £250,000 house.
Yeah.
And some people are at the polar other end of the scale that have nowhere to live. And I'd be more than happy to get involved with a project that looks after the whole demographic of the village. Because we do live in a very affluent area, and we do have some poor souls who are really struggling. And we should be helping both. But we're not really doing a good enough job, in my opinion. But where is the problem?
Yeah.
Where are we going to do this?
There is the where, but there is also the fact that we've got a lot of housing within the village where people, they don't want to leave the village, they don't even want to leave that residence, but they're probably only using 30-50% of some rooms. And I think there's going to be a real shift into us, giving development of larger houses into sub-units and things. And I think that's going to be something that we could be looking at, but we can't look at anything until we've got some data.
Yeah.
And Alan wants to get a grant so that we can get some data, which is what we need to do.
Seriously meeting data.
Yes, I know we can work with it.
But not just on social housing.
Oh no.
Yeah,
It's a housing thing that looks at the whole thing across the board.
Just the full demographic.
It's just that one figure that he gave you there, but it was looking at the social housing.
On another sort of viewpoint of it, he said that the Northumberland local plan sets out an indicative minimum housing requirement for Felton Parish over the plan period 2016 to 36 of 42 dwellings. But as of the 31st of March, Felton had 98. Additional dwellings, outstanding commitments for a further 5, therefore Felton doesn't need to provide further market housing. So that's another perspective on it, is that whatever we do is entirely at our own discretion. This is all the more reason to have a neighbourhood plan.
For example, the Bellways that looks at.
Yeah, it's the Bellways,
Which
it's filled up.
which was great, and it brought a lot of new people into the area, and which was good. But that doesn't have any social.
No.
In undersized or oversized houses.
I'm guessing to give us some more information from the council home finders. He's offered that. I haven't asked him about that. I can do that. But one of the other things I wanted to raise is that we are seriously struggling for just hours, manpower. Gemma's very committed, Richard's very committed. I've got a limited amount I can do with it. So I'm thinking to open this out to external volunteers. We've had one lady who's interested, I think. Actually got two. One might take a bit of persuading, but we've got one who's quite interested in this.
I think that's fine. One at Acton is mostly has got a number of community volunteers on it, and it's working really well.
So I'll put out a thing probably on the Facebook page and say volunteers needed.
Come to a meeting to find out.
Yeah.
And have sort of
During the new year.
People steer meetings and do like volunteers sometimes at meetings.
And they don't like it, obviously.
Yeah.
What I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So think of it,
Just work organise.
Gathering. I don't know.
Do you want to change your community for the good?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm thinking in the new year we start doing that because it's going to go very well. I mean, we've got our objectives.
I think it's good.
We've got 4 objectives, so it's not a limited thing to us. It's not one of these things that's going to run on forever.
Yeah, I think we definitely do need to open it out to people, and I think what's really good is that we've already started it and we've got our head around what it actually is. The reason it didn't work last time is because it didn't have clear leadership and nobody. And people went into it to go and find out about it, but nobody knew to talk to everybody about what was
people had
happening.
very different motivations.
And they did, which I think we need to make sure that that doesn't happen again. But I think if it's like you say, but I think you need to, which is why we need to communicate specifically what the requirements are if people are going to come and get involved. This isn't a come and have a rant or a whinge session. It's I have this skill set, I would like to volunteer it.
It's why I'm shied away from it, because I'm not actually sure what people need to be doing.
We'll have a...
Could it be something to do with the parish meeting on January?
Very much.
That is a really good idea, yes. Let's do that.
Yes, good idea. Right, that's it.
Thank you. And well done, thank you for the grant application.
Well, it's not a proper grant application,
No.
it's technical support,
Yes.
which isn't the same thing. So.
But have we got it clear that everyone is happy for
Yes.
that to go ahead?
We're all happy.
Yeah, cool.
And just what you can get there.
Parish management.
I think Richard asked me to put it on the agenda, but very briefly, we had a very good biodiversity meeting. The minutes are attached to the agenda, so you've seen them. The key thing, I think, Richard just wanted to report back that Chris Medley kindly attended and gave us a very detailed report on the current biodiversity of the verges that we have in Felton. They're roughly 2 different types, possibly 3 different types of verges at the moment. We've got the unmown, so the no control section, which gets cut twice a year by county council. He says to improve, I mean, really, he says we've got a good number of species, a comparable number of species to a high quality area such as a meadow, a hay meadow. However, we've just not got as attractive species. So, but he says it is still a very diverse verge. The only improvement there would really be to try and encourage, to try and time the cuts, the 2 mows a year. Either to lose one altogether, but if you're going to keep going with the number of cuts that we get, reduce them to 2 and lift the cuttings, which is a real crucial thing. He says the county council, I think they do have, I think personally think they have one machine that can do that, but obviously it's one for the whole county. There's an issue with getting the perfect timings. Anybody who wants to do verge management is trying to get the perfect timings all the same week. So he says it might be something that we end up having a volunteer team that will go out to the rake. So that's then there's the mown sections. He says again, if you could just reduce them, you could reduce 1 cut a year, or like have a month where they're growing. So basically, reduce levels of cuts, reduce the numbers of cuts, and lift the cuttings is the key thing. So I'm going to speak to Kelly about it for next year. Because they mulch and then they prevent, they like basically they create a micro environment where it increases the nitrates.
Yeah, it increases the nitrates and
So
then
it changes
like
the pH.
Is there any control over the man that's more?
Well, we talked about the fact that you've got to balance pride in the community. These people are volunteering.
Yeah, is it his land? Because it is the
No,
village.
it's the highway. We think it's highway. But it's
Highway right to tell them to
Well,
stop.
it has to be done in the right way. Because we said, we don't upset people. Obviously, he's doing it out of pride for his local area, and we've got to balance that.
But then we need to make him aware of our biodiverse plans.
Discuss it properly. So that was really the discussion, and then so I think that the only other thing that Chris had suggested as a possible trial would be if you wanted to rewild and introduce areas of greater biodiversity within the village. There are small pockets of green which are known at the moment. For example, the area between Parkview and Dean Close, with that little cut through where the tree stumps are. You could try and seek to introduce he calls it a quasi meadow because he says it's technically not big enough to be qualified as a meadow, but so he said, what if you wanted to do that, his suggested plan would be let it grow first, see what you already have there. You might already have a really good set of species and a level of diversity, and great. If you don't, you then start a scarifying and sowing regime, which is often more labour intensive, and you may find that even if you do that, that the dominant subspecies come back anyway, and that you're fighting a losing battle. But he says, you can always revert back, but that's what. So yeah, so sort of 3 areas. So I want to speak to counties, see what we can do about lifting the cuttings. That's it, really.
The downside of that is unmown grass in the centre of the village or the community of home.
No, but that's why he's saying you have to do it. So you do it in select. You identify select areas. You do communication. You do it as a set space. You wouldn't be doing it. You could still do. Because was he not talking about doing like a mown path through it? You wouldn't necessarily. You wouldn't just like let the whole thing go to wild. You would create a space that has had these areas of growth within it that was managed growth. It wouldn't be like up at the top end where it's just. No, exactly. It would be like a managed area, and he says there's only really a few possible areas within the village that you could do that.
Western Summer, I got rid of the grass and wildflower seed with it. It looked great.
Just for 1 year.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is it, because it's not an established biomes.
And then other things come back.
We're not doing that whole bit along the bit into Warburg, along the quick area.
I think
What
it's
patches there?
And that's quite. I think it's quite labour intensive because you have to properly mow it and
Yeah, I can tell you from my own garden, it's not something that.
So you could experience of it.
Well, I've got experience of failing at it because I can pick it up and I end up with the same things. And like you can sow seeds on it, they just don't really get out competed by what's there. But it's like an interesting experiment and things. But I definitely have increased biodiversity from what I had before. But
Well, that point, so
We
what you
want flowers to be
weather.
and it's about 80% dandelion.
yeah, which is fantastic because dandelions are brilliant. You know.
Nobody down them thought that.
Do we need to be grazed to change?
Yeah, well, that's why when you're looking at bird pressure, when you say that you have to lift it, otherwise you're just putting all that mulch back in, and you're not, making this layer where things aren't growing through it.
Right.
So in a natural meadow, you would have things grazing it, which would be lifting that away.
And fertilising it.
When you don't have it, unless we're going to encourage the gypsy cattle, which we were asked to
You
have
can't,
the
it's not and
ten
south.
horses down there, then we have to lift
And
it.
then just-
So it's
There wasn't that there, was that?
Just say we need some village goats.
Don't worry about that. We've got some village goats.
The problem that I've
No,
got is
it's
that I
farm
don't
raising,
put sheep
right?
ground on this patch that I'm doing, but I've also planted fruit trees, and the sheep like to eat those first. And when they're finished on the fruit trees, they start with privet, which is poisonous to them. The last thing they're going to eat is the grass that I want them to eat.
While we're on that subject about trees, I've rectified the problem, so I'm guilty for that, and I will tell the truth right now. But I will also tell you that I've rectified the problem. We had a fence destroyed, and the sheep have eaten all of the parish council's apples. So
So when do we get our lamb chops?
So I've ordered a couple of hundred mixed native species trees from Cheviot trees of the Muller, that should be here in the next 8 to 10 days, and I'm not planting them. So wherever you want them, I'll plant them there. So, but in my defence,
Did
they
they enjoy
will
the
be about
apples?
this size, and the ones that I got from the county were about that size.
Oh, the dead twigs, some of the ones from the
Yeah, but they're all one man, every single one. We've even eaten some of the tree wrap
Oh,
and destroyed
goodness.
5 out of 10 apple trees, big ones. And I've had a company out to save the trees basically. Get this chemical stuff on them, and they wrapped it in single-use plastic and metal and all that to try and get an eco-structure on the trees to try and save them. So, and they'll all say it'll be fine. You don't have to cut the trees down. They're not knackered. They're just going to look dead for the next couple of years. That's great. Yeah.
Sheep are great, aren't they? Only you love being a smallholders, which is why
I did
I'm
last week.
No.
So,
There's no more apples up your trees for a while.
No, not right. Yeah.
No.
moving on, correspondence received.
I just emailed about the employment contracts and to discuss if that's the time.
Okay, good. Is that or is that still?
Oh, the working group thing. Last parish council meeting, I was tasked with getting them trees.
Yeah.
And Scott and I had planned to do that Saturday.
But we'd like to solve it.
No, the ground is perfect. Where they're coming out of, absolutely fine. It's where they're going into. We've got a scanner stick thing, and there is something in the ground. So I would like to get somebody else who knows how to interpret this ground and actually put some paint slots in. Scott just went, I can plant them, but I don't want to knock my communications for the village out or whatever. So we are still going to get it done, but we need to get somebody to come and say, hey, that's safe, that's safe, that's safe.
Where are you?
Do you know where they are currently? And then you've got the little path that gets you just the other side, on the western side of the path. And a terrace.
Right.
A platform terrace.
Or a windbreak, depending on which way the wind's coming.
Right, yeah. So it looked really good, but there is, just walking around with the scanner, there is something coming into the estate there. And just giving Scott super nights.
Is it the sewer pipe? The sewer?
And something
Further up.
So just, if we can get on to somebody, whether it be the electrical or a civil engineering type company, come and say there's nothing here. Because we had a look on the map, and there's a faint pink line coming through the lay-by where the town is.
Yeah.
There's like a faint pink line going through there, which could mean something. But what I meant was, and it's not an excuse, what I meant was, we didn't want to destroy something.
But I know in that little bit, it was open for a bit, and then just towards the end of the Delby thing, and they then backfilled and stuff, so there is something there, whether it's in water main or whatever. Do you know Blues or anyone? Like Scan, regular conversation.
I don't, that's what I
Because being a civil groundwork that they should.
I think we'll avoid it, don't they? They just chew through it.
Well, because that's it, it's very expensive to do that.
Well, it's very expensive.
Or
The alternative would be hand dig the hole.
handing low soft top, I guess. Any of them, because it's recently been disturbed in, they'll just build all the marker tape. Or if they have a marker tape, they'll.
So now's the time to do it.
Yeah.
And we need to work out how many trees we're going to move, because that was 9.
Did anyone manage to get in touch with the Bellway people to see if we could put them on the sud if we can't put them there?
It wouldn't be, it would be.
Or whoever it is.
They're environmental management.
That's more.
Because they have
Chelsea.
planted
Yeah.
some trees in there, some of which have died, and it would just be, if we can't put them where we would put them, if we knew that we could just plant around the sud. Because I think we did touch on it.
The other place would be along the side of the lay-by.
The thing is, along the side of the lay-by is where we might want to extend the lay-by out slightly to put some parking and
Nobody parks there anyway.
Sorry?
Not yet.
Nobody parks there anyway.
Not yet.
Like,
Not yet,
The only people
but-
park there, people that bring the car out of the state bus, they get parked down in the house.
No, but if
Or
it,
the bus down.
Even
Poland. No, well, I'm a couple of park out here, or you can go on the bus down.
rarely see it. Like one hand in the things to park there in a year. Even the fair day, you don't even park there. Yeah, they'll extend the meeting for 15 minutes.
The other thing is, let's say one box of wine somewhere else. The other place I thought, which, might be hard to, the really rough area on the right. Aside, where the pump track was. What about, because it's really wet there anyway, what about putting another line of trees down the east side?
It's fine, really.
Yeah.
Would it interfere with the land drains and make the drainage worse?
Actually, no land drains
But
out.
in,
I think they're all blocked anyway.
I know, but I just think
the argument both ways is trees drink water,
Yeah.
and
Right.
they probably,
And the ones, I don't know what species, but the ones that like water.
but
Some.
Go to Scotland when it's bit wet.
you can move them a bit here and over. You need to go the northern eastern edge to shade off the pump track. When you can put them sufficiently far apart that if when you do something with the pump track, make it into another pump track, it's just a,
some trees there.
yeah.
I'd consider it if the other two
Yeah,
options
it's a
don't
fair,
get there,
yeah,
so I think
it's
it's
a last
Yeah.
resort sort of thing. So I don't think that I don't think it would be the management people of the Belway estate that would get permission from it, as I guess it would be environmental or water. They're generally the ones that are responsible for some sort of planting around them, you need their
Yeah.
permissions. But I think
Plant around the sub isn't really doing it towards a memorial tree, is it?
no.
But it stops trees getting cut down.
Mhm.
And then also why do trees die? You know,
Because
Probably because they were in the
some
line or
trees
something.
die.
I'm happy to do a bit of hand digging up there if you want.
voice.
Gemma and I have got children that like giving up each other.
Not really.
Never in the right place, so, never in the right place.
Just don't want to miss the planting season.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
Could we coordinate with time to get there, August,
The
with
figures.
them, and to get their tree planter falls out. We work out whether we want to put some of these little saplings, just to restate the can from over tree planting weekend.
On Saturday, I was up at the crematorium with Cam at a More Trees Now lecture, and they and Scott at the crematorium is having a thing called start setting up a tree club, and it's to help biodiversity, which has gone down 80% in the last 12 years or whatever it was. About harvesting saplings. Every tree that drops seeds. If you don't mow the grass underneath them, within a couple of years you'll see the saplings and they're harvested and they're put on your website for people who live in the area who would like a free tree to come and take some and plant them. But conversely, if you have an area of trees that you find are shooting lots of saplings, rather than blasting the digger through them, you can get onto the local tree and people to come and take them away, which can have a champion, which is really good. Really interesting. So that's for that.
Just know that they've got the tree augers and they've got manpower
Yeah.
and be utilised rather than us trying to plant a whole load of saplings ourselves.
They were incredible when they came and planted to me. I got coffee, tea and cakes and stuff for half time. We had 400 trees to put in, we didn't get a half time. Just done in about an hour. Excellent.
Yeah.
And the knowledge that you got there, you really couldn't pay.
I was going to ask about this because it came at the biodiversity meeting when Mark was talking about their tree availability. I have got a shared historic hedgerow that needs infill and kind of offered to plant it if I agree with it with my neighbour. But obviously this represents conflict of interest. The other side of my garden that I share costs with Richard, we spent a lot of money on having the hedgerow replanted. It's not a budget that I've got here, it's not something that Carl's going to pay for either. But Cal said they've got the tree availability to put them in there. Has anybody got any issues with me pursuing that?
No.
Because the thing is, if can don't get them planted, the
Yeah,
trees are
but
perished.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But
And
also
they're-
And hedgerows are so important.
Mhm.
But they did say, Cam did say that, if people have got areas around that need people, that there are free trees available. and
Yeah,
they should
and that they will plant them as well.
Yeah, it's like
and
for a
they'll-
service,
yeah.
not just a gift.
Yeah. So,
So should we ask Can about this native tree selection that I'm buying? Cherries. The ones that have flavoured my sheep, somewhat.
they'll just taste beautiful.
You
They
can
really
offer
will.
them free
See, that
response.
you're saying about maybe letting the gas go longer or whatever. Who owns that?
It's counted.
County. Maybe
County
plant some more
yeah.
plants in there, more trees in there.
Because being near a road, that's an issue, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's about visibility as well, so.
No, but the bit between between the houses and the hedge.
Where?
He's talking about it. So Dean Close has got the hedges and then it's got the fences of the property set back and
And then
the
there's
green.
some trees around there already.
You wouldn't plant a tree under the shadow of another tree because it won't survive.
And the other thing is they'll say you can't because they cut back periodically and you put more trees
Yeah, but we're
in.
talking about asking them not to cut it periodically.
I think Callum will have already
Yeah,
looked
and
at
then
these
they've got
options.
production and things. The bit that I keep looking at is the bit just beyond the bus stop as you go out. That's like, yeah, that's probably, there's like a little triangle bit there that I think we could actually get some in.
I would almost guarantee Can's done a survey.
Yeah,
Already wished to.
Identifiable areas and
Yeah.
I think common sense says you don't put them right in the middle of the football field, but around the edges. there's a plan to take dangerous trees out, so actually
There's a
saying,
lot of trees on that eastern boundary coming out. A lot of acacia that's coming out along the western boundary as well. Like that, even the tree that came down, the one next to us, come down as well, which is one of the big hole there.
That one that came down is going to come back fine, though, isn't it? Because it's a.
Well, I think it's tree's coming down.
Sorry?
I think it's meant to not meant to come back. I think it's meant to.
What do you mean it's not? What, it's going to, like, the
Yeah.
sprouts getting taken out as well? Why?
I think the tree is on the survey as one to be removed.
Which one? The one that's already gone down?
It and the one next to
the
it.
line,
Yeah,
if
so
it's
the little
sprouts.
lime tree can be left to poppies, can't
it'll
it?
split and go again.
Sorry?
It'll split and go again. It'll be 3
Well, yeah, that's it. At the moment, it's already, like, sprouted up from the bottom.
Okay.
But that, I don't think that needs to be, that's not dangerous or anything.
Brilliant.
But
That
ash
is
is
good
good.
lime
Yeah.
trees.
Yeah.
Really good for bees.
Wasn't it hell on them?
Yeah, it took Richard's own figure out.
Do you go that way?
pretty fast.
And they had,
They get stung
they just done quite a
as
bit.
well, yeah.
So it's light, isn't it?
Just as a, yeah, I went down when I was getting ready to go out in town.
Shall I
had my
curl
hair
it?
set in hair curlers, and I went down to see if I could like close the hives off before they came down. But the bees were just, I thought they'd be cold enough, they were coming in and out, and I was like, I can't close them off, I'm sorry. It was a sight to behold, it really was.
Shall we move on to planning? Yeah. Do you want to bring that last slide?
So, I think we've seen this previous meetings. Particularly say it's all, I think it's all stuff that we've sort of seen. We've had emails around. We've been asked, so
Any issues with us?
we've been, the heritage officer advisor at the county has commented to say we need a heritage statement because of the, to assess so that they can, before they can comment, and has recommended that that if we can't provide it, that we would need to withdraw our application. Now, that's not problematic really because we can, well, for two reasons. I think the only reason it's triggered is because I had to resubmit the plan to show how the site reached the to show the access to show, so basically to take the site all the way to the Dr. Towerway, so that takes us down Wreck Lane, which therefore obviously brings us into the conservation area. Where we're proposing to put the building wouldn't, you know, it's not visible from the conservation area, it's miles away from it. So I've spoken to Kevin, who did the plans for us, and he is going to have a look at that, what needs to be, he seemed quite happy that he's going to put something together for that. If we do have to withdraw because we can't meet they've put a 14-day deadline on it. Now, first of all, I think we probably can have an extension as long as we are definitely submitting it. But even if we can't, we have to withdraw. I don't think we get charged, from what I've read, we don't get charged the planning application fee again, they just allow us to resubmit it, basically. Yeah.
I don't think we can withdraw.
No, so I think it's just, I was having a chat with Kevin about it, and he's going to read the letter. But I think it is just to say, because basically we've taken ourselves, because we've had to show the access all the way down the lane now, we've taken ourselves into the conservation area. But the site itself isn't really in the conservation area.
I mean, you did all that.
Is he marked that up as all existing?
Yeah. And I'll tell you what he's really good at doing heritage statements, Richard Evans.
Was it?
If you want it to be 20 pages long.
Okay. Well, I don't think it's going to be, I don't think
Yeah.
it's going to be anything.
Richard has a heritage statement all right way.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll ask Al.
But there's an existing car park within the conservation area.
Well, exactly. I think it's just, we're just going to jump, it's just
It's
to
just
jump through,
through,
so
it's
it's
not
not
a
fine,
problem.
it's not a problem. But
I
obviously-
wouldn't do any use of withdrawing it.
No.
No, I was
Because
going
that
to.
purely just be to meet their KPIs or
Yeah.
something.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to
Exactly.
feel it. So,
I've already spoken to the case officer about it.
no.
Yeah.
Done.
Anything for the next agenda?
It's not till February, our next meeting. If you want to meet desperately before then, let me know.
Where do we have in the parish
We've
meeting?
got it in at the 18th of January. In here.
Right. So that's happening before our next meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we need to have a meeting?
Because we're going to have a meeting before that meeting.
Get organised as to what we're doing.
Are we, or are we, is there anything that we,
I think
Will you share another magazine before that?
we could do a shorter one. We could do just more of an update on where we are with things, because I know there's been interest in how we're getting on with the field, and the planning application, and the outcome of the garages, all these sort of things. Going
Doctor
on.
surgery.
I'll do a draft.
Just
come
that's
round.
what that.
and also,
Times if 18, so you need to be printing first week of January, really, wouldn't you? Do you want to print? Is that the kind of time scale that's needed? So we need it. I'll do it sooner rather than later. So it's kind of
Trying to figure out how long, but yeah, but you can actually do it right now.
you don't go back to school till the 8th. Every time to anything.
I'm hoping I'm already first week of January.
Okay.
Do we have money available to print?
Well, probably yes.
I'll just mention it because it will be mentioned.
Yeah. Why not?
And do we need to agree it?
Yeah.
Not on the agenda.
No.
On the agenda, but if it's less than, if it costs less than £50, we agree it.
I think. We've got stationery. We've got money in the stationery budget to cover it.
Yeah, could we produce it online?
What is
People
this?
access to it via
We could do.
Facebook?
I think what
What
people
is
said was
the
so nice last time is that we got it through the.
Everybody got one.
What's the stationery budget, just in case?
well, I think we'll have to do that. Then we'll have to put it on Facebook. Then I'll have to probably form it on Facebook and remove the song and dance.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah.
And then you've got to remember the children in Felton don't get to do it. Therefore, we need to do it as a puppet show as well.
Alright.
Stop.
Date next week, anything?
Well, I don't know if we're going to